been given her perch here in New York, and that has.
奥克兰市第9街387号，订餐电话510-465-1888。
Few things that she has been an advocate for with this administration. Number one was moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in Israel. She was a big proponent of that. And since that has happened, she has been the one to face the blowback on the world stage at the UN because most countries didn't agree with the U.S. in that decision. And she has also been the one to take that a bit personally. Much like the president, some of the criticism that she receives goes deep with her. And so as we have seen this administration pull back its aid from UNRWA, which is a UN organization that provides support to Palestinian refugees, that's something that Nikki Haley was very supportive of because the Palestinians treated the U.S. with such frustration, with such anger after they moved the Israel embassy. And so there have been a lot of these issues where, you know, Haley has been the leading voice and she's not afraid to get out there and be vocal about it. She actually was the one at one point who said that the Trump administration was going to be putting new sanctions on Russia, and then they didn't do it. And she said, I wasn't wrong. This was a point of conflict in the White House. There was some confusion there, but I knew exactly what I was doing. This is not someone who has ever stepped back from what she believes is right and from the policies that she's advocating for. I also want to point out that she had a very frosty relationship with the first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. They did not get along. She would come to Washington. She wouldn't even tell Rex Tillerson's staff that she was here. It was sort of like they had this competition for power. Who was the one who was the leading voice for foreign policy for the Trump administration? And she felt that she had a closer relationship with Trump. Tillerson didn't see a need to really develop a relationship with Nikki Haley.
Right,
and
Kylie,
so,
let me just interrupt you just for a moment because we're starting to get some reports from a pool reporter in the Oval Office, and we're told that Mr. Trump said Nikki Haley has been very special to me. She's done an incredible job, fantastic person. She gets it. She's been at the UN since the beginning. She told me 6 months ago, maybe at the end of the year, she wants to take a break. Was governor, this perhaps even more intense. I'm reading off some rough notes here. He also mentioned that North Korea is moving along well. Pompeo thinks the world of her. All happy for you, but hate to lose you. At the end of the year, she will be leaving. We'll be in constant touch. So we're getting some new details about UN Ambassador Nikki Haley's resignation. We do know that she will be leaving at the end of the year. We do not know what's next for her. Has she been reassigned? And who her possible replacement will be. Kylie, I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead on to your thought.
No, I mean, those comments are pretty nondescript, right?
Right.
They say that she's leaving. They're not saying why. They're not pointing to any bad blood between the White House and Nikki Haley. They're saying that she has a good relationship with Pompeo. As I was saying, her relationship with Rex Tillerson, the previous Secretary of State, wasn't that great. So she's walking out the door in good standing with this president, it seems. We're going to have to get down to the bottom of why she's choosing to walk out the door.
Exactly. And just to fill everybody in, if you're just joining us, UN Ambassador Nikki Haley has resigned her post. We are still waiting for an announcement from President Trump out of the White House. It was scheduled at 10:30 when he tweeted out big announcement with my friend Nikki Haley out of the Oval Office at 10:30. We do know that she is going to be leaving at the end of the year. Caitlin Huey-Burns is also here, CBSN political reporter, breaking down and trying to analyze exactly, you know, what's taking place in Washington just 28 days from the midterms.
That's a really important point here. We're just a month away from the midterms, and you would imagine that this kind of shakeup would be startling to some. Now, you know, you have to consider that Haley, again, is not involved in the day-to-day politics going on in the administration because she's here in New York, focused on foreign policy at her perch in the UN, and she has been really able to carve out an identity for herself. And many have seen this position for her as a launching pad for something else eventually. eventually, whether that be a presidential run of her own or something else. Of course, she is very popular across the country, but also really popular among Republicans who have seen her as kind of a rising star in the party, someone that the so-called never-Trumpers or somewhere else. I also wonder if she might be, if she's not going somewhere else in the administration and she is leaving this post, whether in fact she will become more politically active, whether she will be more engaged in politics. You know, there are a lot of never-Trumpers who might like to see her challenge the president. I think that is a longer shot at this point, given that he remains so popular among Republicans at this point. And you're seeing a lot of Republican candidates this cycle endear themselves to him in places that he is popular.
Kylie, I'm just, speculating here in terms of possible political aspirations for Nikki Haley. Have you ever heard speculation that President Trump might consider her as a vice president, a vice presidential candidate going forward? As we all know, women on the Democratic side, they're gearing up for quite a fight in the next election.
Yeah, that's right. I actually haven't heard about the vice president spot as a ticket for Nikki Haley, though, because I think what she's done in this administration and what a lot of top administration officials have tried to do is be supportive of the president, but also carve out their own niche and try and be
Kylie, let me interrupt you because this is big. Haley just told reporters in the Oval Office she will be campaigning for President Trump in 2020. So obviously, no hints at bad blood there.
No hint of bad blood there. That still doesn't close the possibility. Has extensive political ambitions, and her team has never been necessarily discreet about that. They know that she is a very forceful, compassionate woman with a really great American story. She herself is an immigrant. She has Indian parents. She talks about that. And so I think that to say that her political future is tied to Trump's just because she's campaigning for him isn't necessarily true, but it does show that she's still supportive of this president.
Okay. What do you make of that announcement, Caitlin, that she will be campaigning for him in 2020?
Well, I think certainly, just to pick up on that point, it's not like anybody really wants to rock the boat for the party at this point either. So it makes a lot of political sense to say that she is remaining supportive of the president. There could be a lot of different factors that go into this. But another thing to keep in mind about Haley, in addition to what Kylie was saying in terms of how she has been really admired by many Republicans, just given her background. In 2016, she took what was seen as a big political risk in calling for the Confederate flag to be removed from State House grounds in South Carolina while she was governor. That was in the middle of a national debate over that. And of course, this was shortly after that horrific and tragic shooting of innocent African-American parishioners by a white man in that church in Charleston. And that was something that really rocked the country. And she called for the removal of the Confederate flag from State House grounds shortly after that in 2016. And a lot of people in the Republican Party and, quite frankly, outside of it, looked to her as a model for addressing this in that really tough political time. And so she has really risen to prominence over the past several years, given her background, given her ability to really kind of engage the moment. And so she has been considered someone who does have ambitions beyond this, and we'll see how that shakes out. This is a position that would kind of allow a launching pad for higher office.
Kylie, weigh in on that a little bit because, looking back at former tweets from President Trump, today he's, tweeting out, a big announcement with my friend. A while ago, it wasn't too many years ago when he tweeted out that the people of South Carolina are embarrassed by her. So definitely a tumultuous past between the two. Talking about taking risks, how big of a risk was it to be President Trump's UN ambassador if she wants to go on for higher office herself?
I think that's a great point. I mean, it was a big risk, and I think most people would say that she's played it pretty well. She's been forceful where she needs to be. I want to point out, though, that doesn't mean she has been part of every single policy discussion in terms of foreign policy and this White House. North Korea, that's a baton that is held by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Another decision that was recently made that we put a lot of focus on was the new refugee numbers coming out of this administration. They cut the refugee numbers that are to be let in next year to 30,000. That's the lowest number that we have seen in more than 30 years. And Haley was not in the last discussions about that number. So there were some frustrations on behalf of her team in terms of not giving the last final say, especially because she comes from refugee parents. So there have been moments where they haven't been lockstep. But, you know, as Caitlin said, I mean, Haley is someone with political ambitions, and so she knows where to pick her battles and where not to. She knows, you know, when we saw the anonymous op-ed from a senior administration official come out a few weeks ago, she wrote a counter op-ed to that, basically saying that she is in line with the president, and when she disagrees with him, she does so directly.
All right, we want to bring in on the phone Leslie Sanchez, our Republican strategist. And Leslie, there's a lot of speculation going on right now. There's some speculation that the Attorney General, Pete Sessions, if he left office, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham could be considered for that position, opening up another seat in South Carolina, a Senate seat, which could go to Nikki Haley. So talk us through that whole scenario.
Sure. There's a lot of buzz in South Carolina right now of that exact viability and possibility. And many people speculate that this is kind of moving, setting up the shuffling of the cards and these cabinet positions post-election day. So it's creating opportunities and openings that do not have to be filled until after the election, because this was always this idea not to do something dramatic with Sessions until the midterms were over. Mm-hmm. So if something like that were to happen and Lindsey Graham were to move into a position at justice, which he has often said he did not want to do, that he was very happy, let's just reiterate, very happy where he is, and he waited a long time to go back to Strom Thurmond. He waited a long time for that opening to be vacant in the Senate for South Carolina. But what it does do is create some exciting possibilities for the Republican Party, and especially in unifying the Republican Party. Nikki Haley is somebody who's extremely popular. She has an independent stance. When she went into the UN, she had some guidelines and stipulations. She wanted to be a policy person. She wanted to be somebody that she said other than a wallflower. She wanted to be part of the decision-making process. And I think she can walk away feeling she did that. If she became and was appointed to fill an open seat in the Senate, many believe it would open the door for her to be a VP or a presidential candidate in the future. And so, again, it's about lining up for 2, 4, 6 years from now.
All right. Stay there, Leslie. We'll chat with you a little bit more in just a second. I just want to give you some more color, some comments that are coming out of the Oval Office from Nikki Haley. She apparently said that her 2 years as the United Nations ambassador has been an honor of a lifetime. She said, we will put our embassy where we want to put our embassy. The U.S. is strong again in a way people should be proud of. She went on to say that she can't say enough good things about Jared and Ivanka. Thank you to my family. And then she also said that nothing is set on where I am going to go. Was governor for 6 years, 8 years of intense time. I believe in term limits. She said she is not running for president in 2020. She will support President Trump. She believes government officials need to move on. We also are getting word that President Trump, who said when we came into office, almost inevitable in eyes of the world that we would be going to war with North Korea, alluding to the fact that UN Ambassador Nikki Haley really helped play a role there. He also thanked Haley and said this is an appropriate way of doing it. In terms of a successor, he said there are a number of people who would like to do this. It is a much more glamorous position than it was a couple of years ago. Kylie, how much of a role did Nikki Haley play in elevating the role of UN ambassador?
Oh, I mean, you know, she would say that she played a huge role in that. I think there would be some who would contest because there have been past ambassadors to the UN who have obviously had a really public role as well, Samantha Power being one of those. But what's a little bit different about Nikki Haley and former ambassadors to the UN for many administrations is that Nikki Haley is very political, and that's not always the case for this role. It's someone who has to work with world leaders. It's someone who has to kind of see where they can work together, where they can push together. It's not necessarily someone who is pushing the agenda of the White House. And that was what Nikki Haley continued to do time and time again. And she often got points from this White House for how tough she was against leaders on the international stage who weren't in line with President Trump. She said at one point, you know, we are taking names when that decision was made about moving the embassy in Israel, and world leaders came out against Trump. She basically was threatening that if you are not supportive of the policy of this White House, you better get ready because there might be something coming your way which isn't going to be so great. So she wasn't afraid to make it a political position, and that is what is a bit different about her and how she decided to approach this role.
So we do know that the press has left the Oval Office, and they are going to be feeding tape back so we can listen in to the event that just played out there in the Oval Office between President Trump and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. She's set to resign at the end of this year. On the phone with us is Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez, who joined our conversation. And, you know, Leslie, I never got to ask you, but did you have any indication that this would happen?
No, I think that's what's surprising. It's interesting to see she told her staff this morning. For many who wondered about Nikki Haley in the cabinet from the beginning, after the president's win in 2016, it was always a question of how the dynamic would work together, especially since there was some contention in the 2016 presidential. She had sided with Marco Rubio as her candidate. And it's interesting because Marco Rubio even defended her earlier this year when she ran into some kind of political problems. He came out and came out to her defense. So the alliances were always different, and the president is big on loyalty. So the interesting part is that she waited to that 2-year mark, and that's kind of a funny, in politics, that's a funny term because you do your time. It's a bit of service. You wait your 2 years and then you go do something else. So I feel she was a good soldier and a good a member for the president in sharing her opinion, and it was often a differing opinion. And she's strong enough to stand there and express that to the president and still support his ideals and be that political role that we just talked about. That's a very unique blend.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Just to pick up on that point, it has been very interesting to watch Nikki Haley really be unafraid in carving out her own identity and in making clear when she disagrees with the president and the administration. Remember just recently when there was talk of additional sanctions against Russia, Larry Kudlow, the president's economic advisor, said that Nikki Haley, who had just been on the Sunday shows talking about it, may have been confused, and she had responded, "I don't get confused." And so she has been unabashed about sticking up for herself in this administration, and again, really forging ahead with her own identity here. And I think it's really important to note that as we're looking at the pool reports from the White House and the president's, the way in which the president has been talking about Nikki Haley, saying that she has been very special to me, she has done an incredible job, she's a fantastic person, she gets it. She told me 6 months ago that maybe at the end of the year she wanted to take a break. If in fact Nikki Haley has political ambitions or is really seriously thinking about them going ahead, that support from the president leaving on good terms from this White House would be critical in terms of kind of building that support. But I was really struck by this idea that she told me 6 months ago, the president said, that maybe at the end of the year. And I'm wondering, maybe Kylie can speak to this. You know, Nikki Haley, of course, moved to New York from South Carolina. She has young children. I'm wondering if that is, of course, this is a strenuous job.
All right, let's listen in to what happened in the Oval Office.
I'll just say that we're very well prepared from the incoming hurricane. We have another one coming, so we've done very well. North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Florida, Puerto Rico, so many places. And we have another one coming in, a big one, much bigger than they anticipated. A week ago, 7 days ago, I heard for the first time there was a very small drop of weather that looked like it was forming, and now it's pretty close to a Category 3 if it's not already a Category 3. So we are very well prepared. FEMA's ready. We're all ready. Spoke with Governor Scott. Spoke to everybody that you have to speak to, and I think that hopefully we'll get lucky, but maybe that won't happen. But we're prepared. I wanted to do this because Nikki Haley, Ambassador to the United Nations, has been very special to me. She's done an incredible job. She's a fantastic person, very importantly, but she also is somebody that gets it. She has been at the United Nations from the beginning with us, right from the beginning, and worked with us on the campaign. It's been really a long time, very intense, and she told me probably 6 months ago, she said, you know, maybe at the end of the year, at the end of a 2-year period, but at the end of the year, I want to take a little time off. I want to take a little break. She's been a very successful, as you know, governor of South Carolina for 8 years, and then she did this, and this is possibly even more intense with what's going on in the world, and very dangerous and a lot of things. But she's done a fantastic job, and we've done a fantastic job together. We've solved a lot of problems, and we're in the process of solving a lot of problems. At the beginning, North Korea was a massive problem, and now we're moving along. It's moving along really nicely. I can speak for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He thinks the world of Nikki, and so we're all happy for you in one way, but we hate to lose. Hopefully you'll be coming back at some point, but you want to just, in maybe a different capacity. You can have your pick. But I just want to let you know, so at the end of the year, Nikki will be leaving, and we'll be in constant touch. I know that whenever you have any ideas, you're going to call me because you know all the players. And that was really the thing I think she did best at the United Nations. She got to know the players. She got to know China, Russia, India. She knows everybody on a very first-name basis, and they like her, except for maybe a couple, which is normal, right? They can't all like you, but they do. They really like her, and I think maybe more importantly, they respect her. So, Nikki, I just wanted to tell you that we will miss you. We'll be speaking all the time, but we will miss you nevertheless, and you have done a fantastic job, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I want to say, first of all, I want to thank the President for just, allowing us to come out and talk to you this way. It has been an honor of a lifetime. I said I am such a lucky girl to have been able to lead the state that raised me and to serve a country I love so very much has really been a blessing, and I want to thank you for that. But I'm most excited. Look at the 2 years. Look at what has happened in 2 years with the United States on foreign policy. Now the United States is respected. Countries may not like what we do, but they respect what we do. They know that if we say we're going to do something, we follow it through, and the President proved that, whether it was with the chemical weapons in Syria, whether it's with NATO, saying that other countries have to pay their share. I mean, whether it's the trade deals, which have been amazing, they get that the President means business, and they follow through with that. But then if you look at just these 2 years at the UN, we've cut $1.3 billion in the UN's budget. We've made it stronger. We've made it more efficient. South Sudan, we got an arms embargo, which was a long time coming. 3 North Korean sanctions packages, which were the largest in a generation, done in a way that we could really work towards denuclearizing North Korea. The Iran deal, bringing attention to the world that every country needs to understand you can't overlook all of the bad things they're doing. You have to see them for the threat that they are. I think you look at the anti-Israel bias and the strength and courage that the President showed in moving the embassy and showing the rest of the world, we will put our embassy where we want to put our embassy. All of those things have made a huge difference in the U.S. standing, but I can tell you that the U.S. is strong again, and the U.S. is strong in a way that should make all Americans very proud. And I do want to say that it's not just the President I want to thank. the family in general. The First Lady has been nothing but very, very kind to me. I can't say enough good things about Jared and Ivanka. Jared is such a hidden genius that no one understands. I mean, to redo the NAFTA deal the way he did, what I've done working with him on the Middle East peace plan, it is so unbelievably well done. And Ivanka's been just a great friend, and they do a lot of things behind our family. Michael is a saint, and my two little ones, I adore them. And to Team USUN. You know, they sacrificed a lot. They put a lot of time and energy into it, but they have a lot of heart and really wanted to make America proud. And so with that, I'm not leaving until the end of the year. My goal is that we make sure that everything is in good place and for the next ambassador to come in. But it's a great day in the United States, and I'm proud to have been part of the team. Now, I don't have anything set on where I'm going to go. I think that the main thing was I was governor for 6 years, and we dealt with a hurricane, a 1,000-year flood, a church shooting, a school shooting. There was a lot, and then to come in and do 2 years of Russia and Iran and North Korea, it's been 8 years of intense time, and I'm a believer in term limits. I think you have to be selfless enough to know when you step aside and allow someone else to do the job. So thank you, Mr. President. It's been an honor of a lifetime. And I will say this, for all of you that are going to ask about 2020, no, I'm not running for 2020. I can promise you what I'll be doing is campaigning for this one. So I look forward to supporting the president in the next election.
That's so good. Thank you, Nikki.
Ambassador Haley, you listed off a long list of accomplishments. Why would you want to leave that all behind? Is it really a personal decision because you've been away from your family for so long? Or is there something else too?
My family is very supportive. So no, there's no personal reasons. I think that it's just very important for government officials to understand when it's time to step aside. And I have given everything I've got these last 8 years. And I do think that sometimes it's good to rotate in other people who can put that same energy and power into it. So there really is, a lot of people are going to want to say there's a lot of reasons why I'm leaving. The truth is, I want to make sure that this administration, the president, has the strongest person to fight. It was a blessing to go into the UN with body armor every day and defend America. And I'll always do that. I'll never truly step aside from fighting for our country. But I will tell you that I think it's time.
And Mr. President, why make the announcement now as opposed to after the midterm?
Well, Nikki's going to be staying till the end of the year, which will be just about 2 years. And I just think, and I was just, as Nikki was speaking, I was thinking when we came into office, it was almost inevitable in the minds of many that we were going to war with North Korea. If you ask President Obama, I'm sure he'll tell you that that was by far his biggest problem when we sat and met right here. But that looked like a real problem. Iran looked like a real problem. It was a question of when would they take over the Middle East prior to my coming here, and now Iran is fighting for their lives. They've got riots in all their cities. It's blowing up. Their inflation, their economy is in tatters. And at some point, they'll probably come and want to make a real deal, not the deal that they made, the ridiculous deal that they made. That was unacceptable to me. And so we'll see what happens. But what a difference between Iran when we first came, I'd like to say the day before we came, and also if you look at North Korea, I mean, there was a deal that there was something that was it was a devastating, potentially devastating problem, and now the relationships are very good. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo just left, had a great meeting, also was in China, also spoke to many of the Asian leaders or went there and had some good meetings, but had a really very good meeting with North Korea and Chairman Kim, and we've just made a lot of progress on so many other fronts also. And I think the world, as Nikki said, the world is really respecting the United States again, much more so than they have in many, many decades. We are respected again, that I can tell you, very much respected again. And people want to be on our side. Even if you look at the votes in the United Nations, I mean, votes that we would normally get no votes, we're getting very strong votes now. So I just want to thank Nikki, and I thought this would be an appropriate way of doing it, because when you write it out on a piece of paper that, you know, Ambassador Haley will be leaving, and you say nice things, people say, well, what's going on? This is the right way to do it. And when you really think somebody's done a terrific job, I felt this was an appropriate way of doing it, and we both liked it. So I just want to thank the ambassador. I just want to thank Nikki, okay?
What are you thinking about the successor?
Well, we have a number of people that would very much like to do it. It's a great position, and Nikki realized that. I think she's helped make it a much better position, if you want to know the truth. I think it's become maybe a more glamorous position than it was 2 years ago. Maybe I wonder why, but it is. Yeah, I mean, she's made it a very glamorous position. She's made it a more importantly, a more important position. So we have, I can almost say, many people that want to do it, and they're very good people. And I'll be talking also to Nikki about that, and to the general about that, and to my staff. But we have many people that are very, very much interested in doing it.
You said you just saw Secretary Pompeo. Are you frustrated by the lack of actual announcements that are coming?
No, not only am I not frustrated, I think it's incredible what's happening. You're talking about North Korea? It's amazing the way the media, who are you with?
With France 24.
With who?
France 24.
So it's amazing the way the media says that, you know, for 80 years they couldn't do a thing. And what are we in, 3 months of negotiation? It's ridiculous. As I've said about 1,000 times, you have no rockets flying, you have no missiles flying, you have no nuclear testing, you have nuclear closings, closing up different areas of North Korea. We're getting the remains back, it's already started, of our great heroes. We got our hostages back, and I didn't pay $1.8 billion like the previous administration. I paid nothing. But I have agreed to meet, and I have agreed to spend time. But how long has it been since we left Singapore? It was 3 months or so. And people say, that's the media saying, like, how can we be negative? Let's see, he's done really well. How can we be negative? Oh, are you disappointed with the speed? I think the speed is amazing. You have no nuclear tests, you have no rockets, and we have a very good relationship with Chairman Kim, which is very important. I like him, he likes me, the relationship is good. Mike Pompeo had a very, very good meeting. I mean, I spoke to him at length yesterday, and he'll be coming back. He'll be back tonight. And so, I mean, just the opposite. I think we've made incredible progress. Beyond incredible. Beyond. I don't think some of the press, I must some of the press really covers it accurately and right, but some of the press really doesn't. Yes, John?
Do you want to take this opportunity to tell us when your next meeting with King will be and where it will be?
Well, it is happening, and we're setting that up right now. That was part of the reason that Mike was going over to meet. They're setting up the meeting, and we'll be announcing that probably a different location. Singapore was fantastic, but we'll probably do a different location.
Did you get it tomorrow live?
He'd probably like that. I'd like that too. I think it would be good, but we'll see. We're talking about 3 or 4 different locations. Timing won't be too far away. We've made a lot of progress, and this meeting really is to, you know, people don't realize the importance of the first meeting. I mean, we said point number 1, denuclearization, and for some reason the press doesn't pick that up. But that was actually point number 1. They've agreed to denuclearization, and they continue to agree. And they continue. Now, we haven't removed sanctions, as you know. You know, people said, what have we done? We haven't removed sanctions. We have very big sanctions. I'd love to remove them, but we have to get something for doing it.
Any chance the meeting could be on U.S. soil?
Well, you know, I don't want to embarrass anybody by asking. I think eventually we're going to have lots of meetings on U.S. soil and on their soil, by the way. It's just, you know, that's a two-way street, on their soil also. I think that the country of North Korea is going to be a very successful country. I think it's going to be incredibly economically successful, and I want to make it that way. I think it's going to be great. Other countries, other people, entrepreneurs, banks, I will tell you, they're calling, wanting to go there and wanting to invest. At some point, when Chairman Kim makes that decision, I think he's going to unleash something that's going to be spectacular. Really spectacular. And I think he knows it, and I think that's one of the reasons that we're having very successful conversations. I think he wants to get on with it.
Mr. President, when will a successor
Yes.
to Ambassador Haley be named?
Excuse me?
When will a successor to Ambassador Haley be named? When?
When will a successor be named?
Oh, I would say we'll name a successor, I don't know, within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe sooner.
Mr. President, have you spoken to the Saudis about the missing Washington Post columnist?
I have not. No, I haven't. But I will be. at some point.
What do you know at this point?
I know nothing right now. I know what everybody else knows, nothing.
What's your response to Hillary Clinton saying last night's swearing in of Judge Kavanaugh was more a political event than it was a national event?
I guess that's why she lost. She doesn't get it. She never did. I knew that a long time ago. Hillary never got it. That's why she lost. Anything else?
Sir, the midterms are in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
What's your prediction right now for the GOP, and how's your stamina out on the campaign trail?
I think we're going to do well. What you people would say, I guess, if you saw there was a 5% drop-off, you'd say there's something wrong with the president. You would say, but no, I'm going to Iowa tonight. We have a big, big crowd. Going to make a big announcement tonight, by the way, in Iowa. We're going to be making a very big announcement. And I have to say the farmers are so thrilled with the USMCA, the new agreement. I don't use the word NAFTA because NAFTA was a disaster for our country. NAFTA, we lost millions and millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of factories and plants, and bad for farmers. You look what happened. Farmers over the last 15 years, it's only gone down. Now they're going to go up. We just opened up Mexico. We just opened up Canada. And it's great for our farmers. But I'm going to Iowa tonight, and we'll be talking a little ethanol tonight. And got some great things planned. And speaking of that, I will say, if you look at industries, the steel industry in this country is back like nothing I've ever seen before. In a period of 6 months since we started doing what I'm doing, the steel industry has literally revived. U.S. Steel is opening up 8 plants. Nucor is opening up. The steel industry in our country is really, really hot. So it's really been great. But I'll be going to Iowa tonight.
What about Secretary Pompeo's meetings in China? How did that go?
Very well. Very well. No, we're very well. We have a very good relationship with China, but you know they took out $500 billion out of our country for many years, each year, and we just can't let that happen. This should have been talked about by people in this chair for many years. Look, for years and years, they were taking out $200, $300, $400, and even $500 billion a year. We helped rebuild China. If we don't do that, China's not where they are right now. And that's fine with me, but we're not doing it any longer.
You promised more tariffs on China if they retaliate.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Are you going to go forward with that?
100%. If they do that, if they retaliate, what does retaliate mean? They've already retaliated. They've taken out $500 billion. I think that's the ultimate retaliation. Now, look, China wants to make a deal. And I say they're not ready yet. I just say they're not ready yet. And we've canceled a couple of meetings because I just say they're not ready to make a deal. We can't have a one-way street. It's got to be a two-way street. It's been a one-way street for 25 years. We've got to make it a two-way street. We've got to benefit also. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions? So I just want to finish because this is really the pure reason for this is, Nikki, you've been fantastic. You're my friend. And I just, on behalf of the country, I want to thank you for a great job. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
So there you have it, President Trump and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who just resigned today. Nothing but praise between the two as we listened for about 20 minutes of their remarks from the Oval Office. We have a team of correspondents covering this breaking development out of Washington. Here in New York with me is CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. We have State Department reporter Kylie Atwood, Washington.
我们始终不扮高深，我们力求直播传真。哦，等下你讲的话会不会到里面去啊？